and I played that for a reason. Welcome to the Vision Radio Show. It is a terrific Top Topic Tuesday, and being the first Tuesday of the month, it is from the heart of the Minstrel, and I have a very, very, very special guest with me today, the one, the only, the maestro, Stephen Ford. He is, actually, I'm waiting for him to call in, but I tell you, his compilation of music, of credits, of accomplishments span from the 70s to the present day, and various artists, R&B artists, gospel artists, inspirational artists, jazz musicians. We have quartet music, choir music, group music, soloists, and of course the one and only incomparable Richard Smallwood. And so we will be speaking with Stephen Ford. As I said, he will be calling in momentarily, and I'm just so excited. This is part one of my interview with Stephen because there's so much information that he has to share and that I want to ask him, that we're going to do part one today and part two at a later date, hopefully at the end of the month or maybe the beginning of April. But let me give you the number. If you have questions for Stephen, if you have comments or anything, if you just want to shout Stephen out, this is your opportunity to speak to this great man of God, this great musician, this anointed minstrel. Our number here is 856-227 1360, 856-227-1360. Did I say who I am? I'm K-Ro on the radio. I'll be your host for the next hour. You don't want to miss this show. We will be playing music and talking to Stephen and allowing you to ask your questions as he shares his heart from the heart of the minstrel today on this Top Topic Tuesday. Call your friends and tell them it's time to experience the vision.
Justice for All People is an anti-violence 501c3 organization founded by the owner and CEO of the LGR Group that offers guidance to young people through education, mentoring programs, and college scholarships. For more information on Justice for All People or to make a secure tax-deductible donation of any amount, visit www.justiceforallpeople.org.
Got music? Record at LGR Professional High Quality Pro Tools HD Studio with room for large bands and choirs. LGR Studios provides expert recording and video production at recession-proof prices. Visit lgrrecords.com or 609-702-7272.
This is Karen Rogers, K-Ro of the Vision Radio Show, and I invite you to experience the vision with me every weekday from 2 to 3 p.m. right here on Philadelphia's Renaissance Station, WNJC 1360 AM. Experience the vision.
That is the one and only Richard Smallwood Singers, the Richard Smallwood Singers, and I'm going way, way, way back because now it's Richard Smallwood and Vision, and sometimes I date myself because I remember Richard Smallwood Singers, and I remember that song, one of my favorites. And my special guest today, the maestro himself, Stephen Ford. This was one of the very first Richard Smallwood CDs that you played on. Is that correct? This was
I
Textures.
think so. Yeah. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
And you are taking me way back.
Yeah.
I was listening. I'm like, oh, how long have it been? I think that was done in 87.
1987, exactly. Yep, it was 1987.
87?
Yep.
So we actually worked on that probably 86.
Yeah.
Oh, that's telling my age.
Wait, mine too, because like I said, sometimes I catch myself as I'm introducing new music that Richard has done, and I always say Richard Smallwood and the Richard Smallwood Singers, and people look at me cross-eyed like, well, who are the Richard Smallwood Singers?
But yeah, I think that's the first one. No, I think Center of My Joy. Is Center of My Joy on that record?
No, Center of My Joy, I think, yes, it was on this record. Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that's the first one. That's when I came on board with Richard Smallwood, and, oh, my goodness, what a journey. But, you pulled that out. You must have blew dust off of that one.
Well, you know what? I have all my albums, and actually I had to because I couldn't figure out how to get it from the album into the laptop so I could play it, so I had to go buy it on iTunes. But I actually do have all my Richard Smallwood records, and then cassette tapes, and then, of course, those CDs. But I want to back up because you kind of missed my introduction. I was looking over, first let me just say, I started off the show by playing something by Barbara Ward Farmer and the Wagner alumni, because that's where kind of I first got acquainted with you, and I've known you for, I was trying to figure out how long we've known each other. I was a kid, I was a child, and I remember Michelle used to play for one of our churches. She used to play for Bethel, and I think that's how I became acquainted with the Fords. But then I really got to know you because it was Stephen and Andy with Sweet Rain as you were producing Barbara Ward Farmer, and then you went on, you sent me and I was looking over this discography, just overwhelming. I knew that you had many accomplishments, that you had, played for and produced and been involved with many different artists and genres of music, but I had no idea that it was so vast. And I was looking over this, and I said, as I started the show, we have quartet music, we have choir music, we have R&B, we have gospel, we have inspirational, we have jazz, we have solo artists and groups, and you're playing, you're producing, you're engineering, you're arranging vocals, arranging strings. Wow. And you even said when you look over this, you yourself get overwhelmed with how much God has blessed you to be able to accomplish.
I do, and the Lord be praised. As a matter of fact, the discography probably starts maybe in maybe 77 or 76.
Yeah.
But I actually started recording way before that.
Yeah.
Just as a teenager, and I'm sure everybody's starting to calculate the years now. Okay, teenager, okay.
Right.
And I tell people, it's not that I'm that old, it's just that I have a lot of mileage. So I'm like, a car you just drive all the time, and you can have a car that's 2 years old and have 100,000 miles on it. Trust
Correct.
me, I'm saying it from experience.
Me too. I know all about that. And I'm glad that you said that, because I do kind of want to back up to the beginning. Even though I've known you for many years, and there are many people that are listening that are very well acquainted with who Stephen Ford is, there's a generation that is coming up that may not know. They may know who you are today, but they may not know the journey and your beginnings. And I want to say now, correct me if I'm wrong, did you have one of those Andre Crouch kind of experiences where your father laid hands on you for you to be able to play at a young age?
Yes, mine was very similar. I actually started, I don't really recall when I actually started playing, truthful. I mean, sometimes you hear people say, I remember I was playing at 4 years old. Well, I can't say that. I do remember that there was a time that my father did pray over me, actually, and my siblings, my older brother and sisters. But then I remember vividly, and I think I was about 8 years old, around 7 or 8 years old, coming home from a Bible study and walking up to the top of the steps. In other words, going up to the second floor to go to bed. And when I stepped on the landing there at the top of the steps, I remember feeling like I walked into a oven. And
wow.
And I just started, thanking the Lord, and I passed out. And my brother and my parents kind of tell the story after that. But they put me to bed, and they said I was just like burning up. It wasn't like a fever or anything, but I just kept on saying, "Thank you, Jesus." Thank you, Jesus.
Wow.
And that's the experience I remember. Then shortly after that, I remember going to the piano and picking out things, and it was almost like instantaneous.
Yeah.
It was like recall. I could, hear something and start picking it out and playing it. And by 9 years old, I was the head musician at the church, and my father then made me the minister of music along with my brother, and I started teaching choir. We were actually over like 5 choirs, and it was just amazing to see a 9-year-old over adult choirs. I mean, teaching parts and teaching, but the music just came like wildfire. It just came, and I've been playing music ever since, and it was quite an experience. So it's very similar to Andre's.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now I heard pieces of the story. I don't think I ever heard that part of the story where you had passed out and all of that. That's amazing. That's amazing. But again, that's the power of God on somebody's life. And you were a child, 8, 9 years old. Amazing. So now from there, did you, and I know the answer, but I'm asking this for the sake of interviewing, did you ever have any formal then training and education in the area of music? Because it came natural to you.
It came to natural to me, and I played by ear for quite a while. But myself, along with my siblings, we were always just enthused by music. So we started bringing, instruments home from school, and, those that can remember back then, even in public schools, they would allow you to have instruments, and they had wonderful music programs. And that's a whole nother session we could talk about the importance of music in school. But then I started bringing instruments home. Actually, then started learning how to read. I actually played the viola, the trumpet, the bugle, the clarinet, anything I could bring home. As a matter of fact, so many instruments. At one point, my mother was like, "Don't bring any of it in this house." So yes, it started with playing by ear. Then I actually went and pursued learning how to read. I studied at Settlement Music School, and then from there, private lessons, and then from there, college, and the rest is history.
All right, now you just kind of glossed over the college part, but it's a very interesting story how you came to, because you went to Temple, right? You were in the Temple music program, but it's a very interesting story how that even came about. Do you have a minute to kind of share that with our audience?
Yes, well, it all happened. I actually was accepted to Temple, kind of almost a fluke. I ran into the head of the music department, and just actually helped. I was helping him carrying some books in, and at that time I inquired about how to get into the music program, and he explained it to me. And while doing that, he said, would you just since you're here and you helped me, just sit down and play something. And I did. I of course, being from church, I played the church song. And he asked me, can you do that in any key? And I said, yes, I sure can. So at first he went to some of the harder keys like E and A and B. And that was no problem because my father played guitar. So the first keys I actually started playing fluently in was the key of E and the key of A and the key of B.
Oh, wow. B natural. Wow, really?
So, as a matter of fact, I almost got a complex because I would play at other churches, and that's the keys I wanted to play in. And other musicians were looking at me like, no, we need to play it. We need to play it
B flat,
F sharp or D,
yes.
not E and A.
Wow.
So that's the inside secret. Yeah, my dad played guitar very well, and my mother played piano. So we were, we all came from a musical family.
Right.
And so getting back to the Temple University story, long story short, he asked me to play something, and I played it. And he said, "Can you play it in every key?" And I played it. And then he said, hold a second. And he, said, I have somebody else I would like to listen to what you're doing. And he called in a couple of other people to listen to me. And they did. And to make this an abbreviated story, within the next few months, I was actually accepted into Temple. However, the full story is, after, attending Temple, I will say that I actually went professional and dropped out. Now, that's the real deal.
Okay, right.
And I didn't actually complete at Temple because I went with a group that some of you might know called, started working with the Richard Smallwood Singers. I mean, this is further down the road. And then with the Winans, and I actually was the musical director for both the Winans and the Richard Smallwood Singers at the same time.
Wow.
So I guess I was a glutton for punishment, but I was out all the time.
Yeah.
And I worked professionally. Of course, the bio and the discography shows that. And but years down the road, I realized the importance of education.
Yeah.
And I decided to go back to get my undergrad and my graduate to get a earned PhD. I have a honorary PhD in sacred music, but I wanted an earned one. I felt as though that if you're going to be a teacher and a role model, you have to do it right. And so I wanted to do that, and that's why. And I love education, and I love music, and I love the reading and writing and being articulate in music, just not saying I'm a gospel musician and that's it. I felt as though that it's integral for you to do as the Bible says, and the Bible says, study to show thyself approved. And so to do that and to be an example, I felt it necessary to go back and finish my education.
I love that. We're going to touch more on that when we come back because, this generation that's coming up, I think they kind of got it. A lot of them are majoring in music and are going to school. But even those that are not going to school, I just think it's very important, and I want you to talk about this. Even if you can't maybe go to formal school, the part about studying to show yourself approved, and that's in every area of whatever God has called you to do. I personally... It's one of my pet peeves about musicians that don't practice, that don't study the music, that don't learn the music the way the music was written. I want you to talk about that and you talk about the importance of education when we come back. There's so much, Stephen, that I want to talk to you about, and I'm so glad that we're going to do a part 2 because I know I'm not going to get to it all today. So when we come back, I want you to talk about more the importance of education, about studying, about practice, about perfecting your craft and your instrument, even if your instrument is your voice. I'm going to talk about that when we come back. And if anybody has any questions for Stephen, if you want to call, if you want to talk to him, if you have a comment or anything, our number here is 856-227-1360. 856-227-1360. We'll be back with more Top Topic Tuesday from the heart of the Minstrel on the Vision Radio Show right after this.
Why would you pay 50 cents for something you could get for 19? Or 10 cents for something you could get for 5? Well, that's exactly what you're doing if you're not using the LGR Copy Center for all of your printing and promotional item needs. We have the lowest prices around. Our everyday low price for color copies is just 19 cents. Black and white copies are just 5 cents. From t-shirts to tickets, booklets to business cards, flyers to forums, programs to postcards to posters. We specialize in all of your printing and promotional item needs. Graphic design is also available with no added fees to open files or for most rush jobs. For more information, mention this ad when you contact us at the LGR Group, 80 High Street, Mount Holly, New Jersey, 609-702-7272, or toll free at 1-800-992-2995. Email us at info@lgrgroup.com or visit our website, lgrgroup.com. The LGR Group, one source, bringing it all together.
Looking for a top jazz club and exquisite restaurant? You've got to experience the Firehouse Cafe, where all the top jazz bands perform live every week, Thursday through Sunday. You'll love the Firehouse Cafe at 20 Washington Street in beautiful Mount Holly, New Jersey. Call 609-261-4502 or thefirehousecafe.net. The Firehouse Jazz Cafe. Win dinner for two online at thefirehousecafe.net.
This is Karen Rogers, K-Row of the Vision Radio Show, and I invite you to experience the vision, Night Vision, brought to you by the Vision Radio Show and K-Row, every Saturday night into Sunday morning from midnight till 7 a.m., featuring the best of the Vision Radio Show. The best of I'm With the Drummer with Trey Lambert. You don't want to miss it all night long, all night strong, right here on WNJC 1360 AM. Experience the vision.
Breaking.
Maurette Brown Clark, just one of the many artists that has been fortunate enough to work with my special guest today. Stephen Ford is on the line, and he's talking about just sharing his heart. Today is Top Topic Tuesday from the heart of the Minstrel. You're listening to the Vision Radio Show, and I'm your host, Karen Rogers. And right before the break, you were talking about, Stephen, the importance of education, how you didn't want to just be a church musician, but you wanted to, and the honorary doctorate is phenomenal, but you said you wanted to have an earned doctorate. So just talk about the importance of why is education so important? Why is perfecting your craft so important?
Well, first of all, so you're able to be proficient in your craft, and just to walk in to say I can play a song, that doesn't really make you proficient. Mm-hmm. And to be able to speak the language. I remember I was conducting an orchestra in Atlanta, and I had an artist that came up and they wanted to change a part in front of the orchestra. So they just said, I want you to, I just want y'all to play it a half step up. And when they realized that it was a little more difficult as far as explaining that, because what the artist did then was decide that they was going to give each of the instrumentalists their note, and they didn't realize that in the orchestra, many of the instrumentalists, in other words, alto sax, reads in transposition, his E flat is not the same E flat that let's say a violin would read, because there's transposition that's involved with that, which is kind of a in-depth theory, music theory class, and that's not what this interview is. But anyway, to have that knowledge, to have the musical knowledge, one has to be educated, and to be able to articulate, to be able to speak, to be able to write. It's important that you do that. Everything in history has to be documented. So it's all right to be able to, get a song in your head, but it's more powerful to be able to sit at a desk and write it out, especially from a composer's point of view. So education is very, very important. I think it's good that we stress it, even not only just for church musicians, but any musician, anyone that's going into the arts, anyone that understands how powerful it is to be taught and to be discipled. To have discipline means that, I'm a disciple. I'm a disciple. There has to be something taught to me, and I have to have the unction to be better at it. And that's what education means.
Yeah, I love that. And just one more thing, because the other thing that I keyed in on what you said was, as a young person, how old were you when you actually got accepted into Temple? You were very young.
I was about 18, 17, 18, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was young. I started young.
Yeah. And one of the things that you said was the professor asked you, can you do that in every key? And this is one of my other pet peeves is that now we have all this technology. Musicians will just sit down and transpose on a keyboard. And so they don't take the time, the discipline to learn how to play in every key. What do you have to say about that?
Well, first of all, if you're going to be proficient, it takes hard work. Yeah. I don't want any listener to think that just because someone is gifted, it should come easy. Yes, God gifted me, and I acknowledge that. Right. But the next part of that is I worked hard. I practiced. As a matter of fact, I would play so many hours during the day that many times in the summertime, my mother would just come over to the piano and lift my hands and say, okay, I need a rest. Because I would play from sun up to sundown. Wow. Because I wanted to be proficient. Now, let me make a sidebar here, because I have to let musicians and singers know that rehearsal and practice is two different things. Mm-hmm. Don't come to a rehearsal not knowing the music, because rehearsal means that taking some time to practice music before you got to rehearsal. Yes. Rehearsal is just to refine it and to get it together for the performance. But you have to practice it before you get
Yes.
rehearsal. So if I send you a song and you come to rehearsal to learn how to play the song, then you got it all wrong.
Yeah. And this kind of leads me into the next. I actually wanted to save this until like the end of the interview, but since we're talking about this kind of leads me into the next thing, and we'll pick this up on the other side of the break. I'm so glad. I was pleased as punch to find out that you are now teaching.
Yes, I'm actually an adjunct professor at Eastern University.
Yes.
And
hold that thought, Stephen, okay? Because we're going to take a break, and I want to pick that up on the other side. And these are the questions I want to ask you. What led you into, after all of your accomplishments, into teaching? And we'll start with that, because there's so many. Like I said, just someone with all of your experience, your anointing, your accomplishments, your knowledge, your wisdom, to have you now in the classroom teaching a generation is phenomenal to me. And we're going to talk about that on the other side of the break. I'm talking to Stephen Ford. If you have a question for him, a comment, now is your time. I mean, this man of God and this gift has so much experience, so much knowledge, so much wisdom to share. If you've always wanted to ask him a question, this is your opportunity. You can call in live. He's on the air live with me. 856-227-1360 is our number, 856-227-1360. And we'll be back with more Top Topic Tuesday from the heart of the Minstrel on the other side of this break. You don't want to miss it.
Justice for All People is an anti-violence 501c3 organization founded by the owner and CEO of the LGR Group that offers guidance to young people through education, mentoring programs, and college scholarships. For more information on Justice for All People or to make a secure tax-deductible donation of any amount, visit www.justiceforallpeople.org.
Got music? Record at LGR Professional High Quality Pro Tools HD Studio with room for large bands and choirs. LGR Studios provides expert recording and video production at recession-proof prices. Visit lgrrecords.com or 609-702-7272.
This is Karen Rogers, K-Row of the Vision Radio Show, and I invite you to experience the Vision with me every weekday from 2 to 3 p.m. right here on Philadelphia's Renaissance Station, WNJC 1360 AM. Experience the Vision.
We fall down, but we get up. We fall down, but we get up. We fall down, but we get up. Oh yes, for a saint is just a sinner who fell down, but we couldn't stay there, and God say now. We fall down, oh my, but we get up. Get back up. We fall down, yeah, yeah, but we get up. Back up. We fall down, oh my, we get back up again. For a saint is just a sinner. Oh, yes we know. But we can't stay there. There's a seed of righteousness inside of you. Oh, we fall down. Say now. But we get back up again. We fall down. We fall down sometimes, but we get back up again. Yes, we do. We rise back up again for a saint, just a sinner. It's not No matter where you are, no matter what you've done, you can get back up again.
All right, y'all know who that is. Donnie McClurkin, another artist who has been privileged to work with my special guest on today, Stephen Ford. And for the sake of time, because I'm running out of time and there's still so much more I want to talk to, we'll cut the song, and maybe in part 2 we'll have time to play more of the music, which I already know the song, We Fall Down. But we get back up. Listen to the Vision Radio Show. I'm your host, Karen Rogers, K-Row, on the radio, talking to Stephen Ford. And before the break, we started a conversation about the importance of education. And there's a saying out there that those who can't do, teach. Stephen, you have totally debunked that, because you have done it all just about, and now you are teaching. And as I said, I was just so elated to find out that you are now in the classroom teaching a generation, not just experience and technique and theory, but your wisdom and your work ethic and all that you've gleaned over the years. What made you want to go back into the classroom and now teach?
Well, first of all, I wanted to prove that, teaching isn't by default. In other words, I'm teaching now because I can't work, or music has gotten old or stale. As a matter of fact, even at my age, and I'll say pleasantly way over 40.
Okay.
That's the way I say it now.
Okay.
You would be shocked how many records I still play on for artists that's like 18 years old and
really? Wow.
20 years old. And that's what's so hilarious to me, is that people don't know that I'm actually doing tracks for, even like hip-hop sounding stuff.
Right.
But one of the reasons I wanted to go back and go into the classroom is I felt as though that we didn't have enough African-American professors, male professors, even in the area of teaching that I teach. Many times when I just look at the whole education structure, and I found that by going back and teaching, as well as keeping my other schedules, it becomes inspiring. I have had so many young people, even on campus, that will come up to me and say, we're so inspired by seeing you and having you here. It warms my heart, but at the same time, it encourages them. So I think it was important. Then there's an inside track with this, and I get emotional when I talk about it. I actually promised my mom that I would go back and finish my PhD. My mother always wanted me to, and the Lord called her home before she actually got a chance to see it on this side of heaven. But I also wanted to keep my promise, and I get emotional about that because it was very important for me to keep my word to do that.
Yeah. Wow. So now, how long have you been at Eastern? I found out because my nephew Corey is in your class, and I tell Corey, man, you don't know how blessed you are to have Stephen Ford as your professor. That is just phenomenal. So how long have you actually been there teaching?
I actually started teaching last semester, last August. I started teaching there, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful ride there. The staff have embraced me so, and Dr. Matthews, Ron Matthews, who is the chairman of the music department, we have become great friends. As a matter of fact, I've known him for years, and it was just a wonderful opportunity that he would call and ask me to come on board, and it's just been great.
That's wonderful. So now, the other question that I have, though, is because I know that you are still working and you're still doing this and that, because even just trying to, get a date down for this interview was tough. How in the world are you juggling teaching and then everything else that you're doing? You're traveling all around the world and teaching. How are you? And you have a family and church and ministry and all that. How in the world are you juggling all of that?
Well, if I actually just sat down and wrote it all out, I must say I have a wonderful, wonderful wife. Deborah is just, I couldn't do what I do without her, and that's just the honest to God truth. Just juggling schedules. But my schedule, I really have a flex schedule where I and it's rigid. Well, that sounds like it's oxymoron there, but
flexible and rigid, yeah.
I have long hours. As a matter of fact, I proved to some young producers that I can outwork them, and we started laughing, and I actually had them calculate how many hours they work a day. I wake up around 5 in the morning, and I start my day about 5.
Wow.
Every morning. And I proved to them that by the time I go to bed, which might be about 11:30 or so, close to 12, if I count the hours of how much work I accomplished during that time and count the hours that they work, which is sometimes 12 midnight to 6 in the morning, that's only 6 hours because they work at night.
Right.
I work in the day.
Right.
And then I'm able to, coordinate schedules. I have a great management, and each day is full. Yes, it is. I'm also the executive director of music and worship arts in Baltimore. At a church, CRL, Church of the Redeemer of the Lord in Baltimore. I have a wonderful staff there. And it's about organization. It's about preparation and about being responsible. I'm a stickler for being responsible, and that's how I'm able to keep my schedule.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that made me tired just listening to those hours because, wow. I used to do a morning show, and I had to get up at 4 o'clock every morning. I was in bed. I tried to be anyway by 8 or 9 o'clock. And I felt like I was killing myself. But I can't imagine that every day, all those hours.
Well, for me, it's just part of me, and I've always been that way. My dad was like that, and my family. My sisters. Yeah. We were just taught. My father woke up every morning like 4:30 in the morning, and he would come down the hall singing, "He's a wonderful Savior to me." So he would wake us up in the morning,
right?
And we just grew up getting accustomed. Without alarm clock,
right.
I just get up, and I just believe that if you're going to give God glory, you can't do it halfway. You really have to do it meticulously if you want it to be a meticulous offering. And so everything I do, when I produce, when I write orchestration, everything I do. As a matter of fact, I'll insert this real quick. One of the reasons that Marvin Winans hired me on the spot, and this is to musicians and musical directors, is that when he called me, the first day that he called me to come to do a date for them, for the Winans, I went in and I had a book with me. He called me and he needed me to meet him the next week. Well, the days prior to me going to meet them in Detroit, I listened to every record they had, and I charted out the music for every song. So when I showed up, I knew every song of his repertoire, every song.
Wow.
And he looked at me and he said, okay, and he would just go into a song and I would sit down and play it.
I love it.
And so when he saw that, not only did I play it, I had to chart for the band. I charted out all the band parts.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
When he saw that, immediately he just said, you know what, you're my musical director, period.
Wow. On the spot.
On the spot. And I traveled all over the world.
Yeah.
Just out with the Winans, of course, people know. And many times it would just be me and the brothers because I would have charts.
Yep.
And we would go, if we would go over Europe, wherever we would go, I had the music written out. And we would just hire band members, if we weren't doing touring in the States.
Right.
So it's very important to be prepared. It's very important to be prepared. I don't know what the excuse would be if and that's even for musicians. If you're a musical director at a church and you don't know the repertoire that your pastor likes, you should be able to know every song that the pastor likes in every key that he likes it to hear it in.
I love it.
Or sing it in. And that's preparation. So... I can go on and on and on.
And I could listen to you on and on. I mean, I could listen to you all day because there's so much wisdom in what you say. Naturally gifted, and this is the thing, you said this a while ago, but I want to bring it back, that a lot of times we rely too much on our gifting and our natural ability and think, whether it's music or whatever it is, even if you're gifted to preach or teach or whatever it is, God still requires of us to perfect that which he has given us, to make the best of it. And your work ethic is what has really catapulted you, because I think a lot of people look at you and think, well, yeah, Stephen is naturally gifted and talented, and that's why he's able to do what he does. But you have worked hard, and I mean, hours and hours of practice and of learning and of applying yourself and going the extra mile has put you and placed you where you are, along with the gifting and the anointing. And I wish we had more time, but we're just about out of time, which is why I'm so glad we're going to do a part 2. This really was just a kind of introduction to Stephen Ford, because there's so much more. When I come back, I'm just going to kind of go over a list of things that we're going to talk about in part 2, and then I'm going to give Stephen a chance to share his heart. We'll be right back after this. Don't go anywhere.
Why would you pay 50 cents for something you could get for 19? Or 10 cents for something you could get for 5? Well, that's exactly what you're doing if you're not using the LGR Copy Center for all of your printing and promotional item needs. We have the lowest prices around. Our everyday low price for color copies is just 19 cents. Black and white copies are just 5 cents. From t-shirts to tickets, booklets to business cards, flyers to forums, programs to postcards to posters. We specialize in all of your printing and promotional item needs. Graphic design is also available with no added fees to open files or for most rush jobs. For more information, mention this ad when you contact us at the LGR Group, 80 High Street, Mount Holly, New Jersey, 609-702-7272, or toll free at 1-800-992-2995. Email us at info@lgrgroup.com or visit our website, lgrgroup.com. The LGR Group, one source, bringing it all together.
Looking for a top jazz club and exquisite restaurant? You've got to experience the Firehouse Cafe, where all the top jazz bands perform live every week, Thursday through Sunday. You'll love the Firehouse Cafe at 20 Washington Street in beautiful Mount Holly, New Jersey. Call 609-261-4502 or thefirehousecafe.net. The Firehouse Jazz Cafe. Win dinner for 2 online at thefirehousecafe.net.
This is Karen Rogers, K-Row of the Vision Radio Show, and I invite you to experience the vision, Night Vision, brought to you by the Vision Radio Show and K-Row, every Saturday night into Sunday morning from midnight till 7 a.m., featuring the best of the Vision Radio Show. The best of I'm With the Drummer with Trey Lambert. You don't want to miss it all night long, all night strong, right here on WNJC 1360 AM. Experience the vision.
All right, we are just about out of time, and wow, I'm talking to Stephen Ford, internationally respected musician, lecturer, teacher. He is the CEO of the S. Ford Music Productions, S. Ford Music Publishers, co-owner of Sparkle Sound Studios, 85 albums or projects that he has been a contributing factor for. As I said, R&B artists, jazz artists, gospel artists, inspirational artists, soloists, choirs, quartet music, group music, all kinds of things that he has worked on. And we just kind of scratched the surface today. This was kind of an introduction. I just wanted to kind of give the backline to Stephen's story, because there's so much more that Stephen has to share, even things that he's working on now that hopefully by the time we get to the part 2 we'll be able to talk about. But we got about 3 minutes. Stephen, is there anything that you would like to, I'll let you have the final words.
I would just like to say to your listeners and to those that have a dream, you know, it doesn't come overnight. You have to commit yourself to hard work. And hard work means you have to just roll your sleeves up. There will be times that you will fall, but you have to get back up. You have to don't fall into the rut of depression, thinking that it's just going to happen like you know, right away. Mm-hmm. But hard work does pay off, and I encourage you to work hard. Set those goals, sit down, write them out, write out where you want to go, and, like I said, roll your sleeves up, go forward, work hard, and then God will intervene. But you have to take that first step. You have to be committed. You have to be responsible. And that's what I'll leave with our listeners today.
I love it. I love it. I actually, as soon as the show is over, I'm going to, we stream live on Ustream. I'm going to post this on the fan page so that if anybody didn't get a chance to hear it live, they can go back and listen to it. Because definitely some of the things that you said today, everything that you said today needs to be heard by the generation of musicians and just people out there, because the principles apply across the board, whether you're a musician or whatever it is that you're doing in life, that, apply yourself, do what you can do, then God will step in and do what you can't do. And I think especially in the church, so many times we just get lazy and make excuses for why we can't do and why we can't be. Stephen, thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. God bless you.
God bless you. I look forward to part 2. We'll work on getting that date locked in, and I'll post it as soon as we get the date locked in so that people can know and tune in and hear that show. Keep it right here. Coming up next, we have Conservative Commandos. I'll be back tomorrow with Trey Lambert with I'm With the Drummer. Until next time, experience the vision.
This is 1360 AM.
WNJC, Washington Township, Philadelphia. Philadelphia's Renaissance radio station. Brought to you from Forsyth Broadcasting. Or listen